Welcome back to the Hydrated Rehydrate in Your Sourdough Starter Chips series. This is video 2 or step 2 in the process. And you have already completed step 1, which is just adding water to your sourdough chips. And now it's time to do the first feeding. Now, let's say this isn't the first official feeding of your sourdough starter, but it's the first feeding that you're going to start with. Does that make sense? So you're going to feed it, but you're not going to take anything out of it. So we'll get into that in a later step. But this is what your sourdough starter should look like. And I will definitely zoom in on this and show you what it looks like in detail. The only thing you're going to add to this is some flour. And all you need is 1 ounce of all-purpose flour. Any brands will do. You don't have to go out and buy fancy flour or bread flour or whole wheat flour, anything like that. And that's what I love about Ida. She only wants simple ingredients, water and flour, nothing special. And that's it. She's very low maintenance, but yet high maintenance at the same time. And let's get started. This is step 2, and it's one of the easiest steps in the series. Okay, let's zoom in and see how our sourdough chips are looking. So you've had it sitting on your counter for a few hours, 4 hours or up to overnight. And this is what it should look like. Don't be afraid to give it a little swirl. There might be a thin layer of water on top. Just swirl it around and everything should get absorbed. It should look very milky. And you might see some dried sourdough chips still in there, and that is perfectly okay. Don't worry about it. They will hydrate also eventually. So to this, we're not going to discard anything. We're not taking anything out, but we are going to do its first feeding, because once you realize when it gets that watery on the top, that means it's hungry. So when you see water on the top, your sourdough is hungry and wants to be fed, and that's going to happen throughout its life and course. So whenever you see like a watery top, that means it's hungry. So from here, we're just going to place it on our scale. Again, I like to just double check everything and weigh it out. But you're going to add in just 1 ounce of unbleached flour. That's it. 1 simple ounce. Just pour it in there. Nothing fancy. No special flour. It doesn't have to be bread flour or anything like that. It's just 1 ounce of all-purpose flour. Any brand will work. Give it a little bit of a stir. It's going to get a little thick, and that's what you want. It's going to start to get more like a pancake batter, and that is the ideal texture that you're going to want to look for every time you feed your sourdough. So give it a little stir until there's no dry spots. Clean off your spatula. I always like to use a little rubber spatula because I find that they just fit in there perfectly, even with the wide mouth jar. So once you got that in there, you're just going to cover it up, and then you're going to let it rest for 24 hours in a warm place. So this could be on your countertop, anywhere. And you'll notice that it will start to get bubbly. It might rise up, it might go down, but you'll see some bubbles forming. You might start to notice the sour smell forming, and that is all completely normal. The cooler the temperature is, the cooler your kitchen or house is, the longer it's going to take. If it's warmer, it's going to take a shorter amount of time. But you do want to give it at least 24 hours to do its thing and become active and bubbly. If it does bubble up and then it lowers down, that's normal too. Don't panic. So let it sit for 24 hours, and then we will come back to step 3 and do another feeding.